Hi guys, hola. I'm sorry we can't be together today. I was really looking forward to catching up with you after Christmas, and teaching time is one of my favorite things to do because a lot of stuff we talk about, honestly, you're like, Mrs. Pond, I could go my whole life and not need to know how to say algebra in Spanish. And fair enough, that is true. But you can't travel or go on a short-term mission trip or anything like that without being able to tell time. It's very important. Our textbook does go over how to tell time, but it just kind of shoves it all into one little tiny box, and I find it a little confusing, and they kind of make big jumps. So I'm going to go over this with you. You can pause the video if it goes too fast. I don't have your little faces in here to let me know whether you're ready for me to move on or not. So you can pause if you need to, but you need a piece of paper, something with which to write. If you want to have your textbook out at the same time, that's great too. There are some YouTube videos, lots of them, on how to tell time. You just have to be careful because there are some differences, some slang. I have to teach you grammatically correct how the textbook says, which honestly is not how daily people are gonna speak. But I have to teach you the rules before you can break the rules. So you just have to be careful because we're gonna be testing on the grammatical way. So when you get on YouTube, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. YouTube is a great tool, but it might be how people actually speak. And you and I don't actually speak like an English textbook either. So you just have to approach that, knowing that in the back of your mind. Plus, there's some differences from country to country. We don't speak exactly like they do in Great Britain. So you may find from hemisphere to hemisphere and country to country within the Hispanic world, there are differences too. All that said, let's get going. We don't have power, so I'm trying to get where you can see and there not be glare and I'm not sitting in the dark. But first thing we have is la hora. And I don't know if you're repeating after me, but it's a good thing for you to do. Okay, so la hora, it means time or the hour. When you have just 1 o'clock, because that's singular, it's only one, we say es la una. Time is feminine, so we're going to use the feminization. Es la una, it's 1 o'clock. That is the only hour that gets es la, because es la is singular. You guys know that. It is, whereas they are. Even though we don't say they are in English, you have to make it plural. So every other hour, 2 through 12, it's more than one. So we're going to use the plural. Son las. Okay? Es la for 1, son las for 2, or everything else because it's bigger. So that should be at the top of your paper. Es la una, it's 1 o'clock. Son las dos, it's 2 through 12 o'clock for everything else. Then I want you to draw a giant circle. It can't be this big because then you're not going to have room to do what you need to do because we're going to make lots of notes and vandalize all around it. But you do still need some space on all sides. So make your circle kind of in the middle of your paper. And then we're just going to put our numbers on our clock. So I have never been accused of having super neat handwriting. Hopefully yours will be better than mine. No, I don't do it in order because if I do it in order, they're never spaced properly. So I've learned from my weaknesses and I have to do them out of order. But you guys probably can space better and don't have that problem. But there we go. So we have 1 through 12 on our clock, just a standard clock. But we are going to make this big old line right down the middle of our clock. Okay, that is important. So we're going to divide our clock in half. Before we talk about anything else, we're just going to talk about how to tell time to the hour. That's the easy one, okay? So if you have your notes at the top of the page, we have this for just one because it's singular, es la una, and son las for everything else. So let's look at this for a second, and I want you to try and say it either after me or once you get the pattern, try and say it before me or with me, okay? So it's 1 o'clock. We're not talking about minutes, only the exact hour. So es la una. We're going to use this now. Son las dos. Son las tres. Son las cuatro. Son las cinco. Son las seis. Son las siete. Son las ocho. Son las nueve. Son las 10. Son las 11. And here we actually have 3 choices. The easiest one for you probably to remember is son las 12. It's 12 o'clock. You can also say es mediodía. It's the middle of the day or noon. Es medianoche. It's midnight. It's the middle of the night. That's all extra for right now. It is in your textbook on your vocab page. Any of those would be appropriate. I mean, obviously, if it's 12 in the afternoon, you can't say es medianoche, but then it's 12 o'clock versus midnight or noon, interchangeable. So how would we say this? Son las 5. All right, how about this one? I'm used to giving you guys points for volunteering, but since nobody's here with me, it's very quiet. Son las 10. Okay, that's how we tell time to the exact hour. That's pretty simple and straightforward. Unfortunately, it's not always the exact hour. We have all these minutes. So when we get over to our clock, what I want you to do is add these notes, and I will move my phone in a second so you can see clearly. For this half the clock, and we're talking minutes now, not the hour. The hour will always be these two, but if we're doing the minutes after, you say E, which is and, or plus. Whoops. Helps if Mrs. Pond, my brain is going faster than my hand can write. Minutes. Okay. So all we're saying is and then whatever the minutes are. Now, obviously you can have 2 minutes after, 14 minutes after, 27 minutes after, but I'm just going to count by 5s just to make it a little easier for us. So we have 5, 10, cuarto, quince. You can do quarter after or 15. Okay, so we've done all that, and then when we get to the bottom here, it's normally media. You will hear sometimes now 30. Media, the half past, and the quarter after are actually the proper way. Not to say 15 and 30, but it's becoming so common now, I am going to include them. But the original rules were quarter after and half past, kind of like they do in Great Britain. Okay, so we've got y 5, y 10, y cuarto, or y 15, y 20, y 25, y media, y 30. Let me move so you can see. It's just the numbers, guys. It's just, I've put them all up in one place for you. So let's practice with our actual clock. I'm just going to pick 7. Sure, why not? So how do we figure out how to say the hour 7 first? We look up here, it's plural, so it's son las 7, and then we're going to add our and, y 5. Son las 7 y 5. Okay? Now we're going to add 10. Son las 7 y 10. It's 7 and 10 is really what you're saying. We don't translate word for word. They're saying 7, 10. But if it helps you to literally translate it, there you go. We're going to do the 7 o'clock, and then we're going to say quarter after. So son las 7 y cuarto. If you tell me son las 7 y 15, I will not mark it wrong. But just know the textbook isn't going to show it to you that way. They're going to say y cuarto, quarter after. Son las 7 y 20. Son las 7 y 25. Son las 7 y media. and half past. If you say son las 7:30, I will not mark it wrong, but just know grammatically in the textbook, they're not going to do it that way. They're only going to say half past. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to go to 2 o'clock and I have 2:20. Think for a second and tell me how you think you would say it's 2:20. So we have to do the it's 2 and 20. So we go up here. Son las 2:20. Son las 2:20. Let's do 1:10. So it's 10 after 1. Well, 1 is the only one that's singular. So es la 1:10. Es la 1:10. Okay? And then that gets us to, sorry, I'm being distracted. My cat's here. She's a teaching assistant today, apparently. That's all the minutes on this side of hand. Now, obviously, if it's 1:03, you could say es la 1:03. If it's 5:17, you could say son las 5:17. What did I say? 17:17. You could add those. I just went by 5s just to save some time. I'm going to say hello, Snickers. Say hello. All right. So now we're going to go to the other side of the clock. I drew that big line in the middle. That should tell you something is happening. Cat, out of the bag. Yes, something is happening. We have to technically subtract back. We're going to go to the next hour and subtract back. So it will be menos, which is from the next hour. So minus from next hour. And then minutes. So menos the minutes from the next hour. It's not going to be the actual hour. So if it's 5:50, you're really saying 10 minutes of 6. Okay, it's 6 minus 10. So let's just try that. If 6 is our actual hour that we're on, but it's 6:50, okay, we have to go to the next hour, which is 7, and subtract back. So son las 7 menos 10. It's 10 minutes until 7, which we do that in English. We just don't do it as much, I don't think. So let's just start with 6:30. Okay, this is where we still have our and. Son las 6:30. When we come over here, we have to go to 7 and subtract back. Son las 7 menos 25. Son las 7 menos 20. Son las 7 menos cuarto, minus the quarter, or menos 15. Son las 7 menos 10. Son las 7 menos 5. And just, you get to plain old 7 o'clock. Son las 7. The advantage of doing this, you don't have to spell out your huge numbers. You're not having to spell out your 40s and your 50s. So that's good. Those are bigger. We don't use them as often. So that is kind of helpful. But we do have to remember to subtract back from the next hour. When you hear that menos, just know it's not the exact hour that we're dealing with. So we could put our same numbers up here, which I should have done. So 5, 10, cuarto, 15, if we're not being perfectly grammatically correct. And then down here, your 20 and 25. Oh, I didn't put an accent mark on that one. Okay. So your minutes before and after the half are going to mirror each other. So it's -5 and 5. So that's good. We don't have to do the big numbers. So let's go through 1 hour all together with the es la una, because that's our singular hour. Es la una. Es la 1:05. Es la 1:10. Es la 1:15. Es la 1:15. Es la 1:20. Es la 1:25. Es la 1:30. Es la 1:30. Now we have to switch. When we cross over here, we're going to that next hour, and you can see that the hand is almost to 2, so that's kind of a reminder. Son las 2:25. Son las 2:20, because we're coming back from the 2 o'clock. Son las 2:15, or son las 2:15. Son las 2:10. Son las 2:05. And then we made it all the way around. Son las 2. Good job. I hope you're not feeling too overwhelmed. We will be practicing a lot, which we were supposed to do together today, but no electricity, no heat. It's kind of stinky here. But we will practice lots next time when we're together. Let's just pick another hour of the plural. We'll do 3 because that's where the hand was. And this time we're going to use the son las because it's not es la, it's not 1, it's plural. Son las. Son las 3. Son las 3:05. Son las 3:10. Son las 3:15. Son las 3:20. Son las 3:25. Son las 3:30. All right, when we come over here, remember, we're on the other side of the clock. We have to subtract menos the minutes, and then we're going to start again. Son las 4 menos 25. Son las 4 menos 20. Son las 4 menos cuarto. Son las 4 menos 10. Son las 4 menos 5. Son las 4. So whenever you hear menos in the time, we know that's not the hour. Son las 4 menos 5. It's 4 minus 5, which makes it 3:55. Okay? Good luck. Do your best on your homework. I will be emailing the worksheet you need for the homework. So don't panic about that. Just practice your times to your very, very best. And we will practice more when we get back together. Study your vocab. Es muy importante. If you don't know what these words mean, I can't teach you how to tell time. So practice your vocab. You need to stay up on that. Practice this time stuff with your worksheets and your workbook. And we'll get back together and we'll work on it all together. Hasta luego, mijos. See you next week.